Okay, sorry, that was a little awkward.
You want
good
to
evening.
dance, you can.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the living room. Thank you all for being here tonight, everyone in the room and everyone signing in from around the globe online. We're super happy to have you. Tonight we're doing a patient roundtable, and we've got some new faces in the room. We've got some new people that I know are signing in online. So what I thought we'd do, as opposed to what we do normally when we have a speaker presentation, I ask everybody to keep their introductions fairly short. I think this is a really great opportunity, particularly for some of the new folks to the living room, to learn who it is, that they're sitting next to or around the room, hear their journey, find maybe some commonalities and maybe help spark questions and answers throughout the evening. So that goes for everybody live here in the room and everyone online. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Danielle Hicks. I'm not a title person. I like helper is like my most favorite title, but I'm the Associate Executive Director in charge of patient services and programs. So anything and everything that has to do with patient touch is my area of responsibility here at the foundation. And equally as important to that, I'm one of Bonnie's daughters. My sister, who's in the room tonight, will make sure that she tells you she's the youngest daughter. So I'm going to go ahead and just say the oldest one right off the bat. The way we're going to do this tonight, for those of you who may not be familiar with how a roundtable living room works, is we're, like I said, going to start with introductions. And tonight, I think it's important that maybe you share your story. And of course, I'll butt in where you get it wrong. But I think we should maybe start there.
Okay. Well, we're just back from ASCO. And
that's not your story.
Well, I'm going to tell my story in a minute. Okay. You're not in charge of me. You're the helper.
I'm not the boss of you.
You're the helper. And I'm not going to belabor ASCO because we have somebody coming next month that's a physician who was at ASCO, and he's going to talk about all of the new therapies and everything new that came out at ASCO. But I was asked to speak on a panel with Roche. Thank you, Roche, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And they asked me to tell my story in 10 minutes. So I thought, how do you tell your story and everything about this foundation, which is 13 years old now, in 10 minutes? How do you wrap up 13 years into 10 minutes? And I did it. And it turned out really, really well. But, I was diagnosed 13 years ago. I'm a 13-year lung cancer survivor. Just so you know, it can happen. And I think one of the things that the patients that come, in here and dial in and whatever, they love, hearing everyone's story going around the room, because it gives them so much hope that there are people that are surviving after 5 years and 8 years and 10 years and now 13 years here. But I was a classic story, misdiagnosed forever, and didn't take no for an answer, didn't say there's nothing I can do, didn't take there's nothing I can do for you for an answer. And I finally found somebody that I asked. He asked me, he said, his name is David Jablons. He's a thoracic surgeon up at UCSF, and he's also in charge of research up there. And he said, Bonnie, what are your expectations? What do you want from me? And I said, I want you to hit it out of the park for me. I want you to give me all you've got. I don't care how painful it is. I don't care if I have to throw up every day. I don't care. And if I don't live, I don't live. But I don't want to die because I didn't get everything you've got. So throw it at me. So he said, okay. He said, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And my point telling you that story is that you need to have a conversation with your physician the same way. You need to tell them exactly what your expectations are and put them on the spot. And then they'll let you know if they can, live up to your expectations. So I did that. I had chemotherapy, radiation, all of those things, and like a 12-hour surgery afterward. The tumor I had was on my heart. And I'm here. I'm here after 13 years. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have that conversation with my physician, the one that I finally found that I thought, had the capability to really give it a go. So when I was going through, especially chemotherapy, and I was in that Barca lounger, I did spend a lot of time on the internet and seeing all these things, and all of a sudden I was reading all these statistics about other cancers and lung cancer. And I heard lung cancer is the biggest. More people have lung cancer, men and women, than any other cancer in the world. And more lung cancer than breast, colon, and prostate cancer combined. And I'm thinking, well, why is their survival rate so low for lung cancer and so high for those other 3 cancers? And to me, that was just a huge injustice. So I made a promise to myself in the Barco lounger when I was having chemotherapy that if I was lucky enough to get out of the park with my team, I would do something to change that. So that was 13 years ago, and here we are today, and we are changing it. And I'm only going to give you a couple little snippets from ASCO. 10 years ago, when we went to our first ASCO, they weren't talking about lung cancer at all. They were talking about breast, colon, and prostate. And this year, they were talking about lung cancer everywhere, in the hallways, in the conference rooms, in the sidebars. Lung cancer has become the leading cancer. It has more targeted markers. It's got more genomics involved. It's leading the way to the eventuality of curing cancer. So lung cancer is on everyone's minds now, and it's a race to the finish. So nothing but good news. And come next month, and you'll have a physician here talking about each and every one of the issues that were discussed at ASCO this year, which are all very exciting. But think survival, and push your physician. Don't take no for an answer. And if you get a no, we'll help you find somebody that has a better answer. Okay, that's it.
So from, I know we have a lot of caregivers and support people in the room and watching online. So from the perspective of someone who was on your, support team, and I'll ask Andrea to maybe chime in at some point about this as well. The what you're talking about, and with, the sadly unique situation with your physician saying, what do you want, right? Like actually asking you what your expectations were, what you wanted to get out of this, what your goals were, and creating that sort of shared decision-making process is huge, right? And I think it is so important in the way that it impacts the care that you receive, having that conversation and letting your doctor know what your expectations are. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as number one. And one of the things that was great was that they weren't just, we were all in the room. So it was my sister, my brother and I, my stepdad, Tony, and my mom, all of us being allowed to be part of that conversation had such, I think, impact and positivity on what we were going through. And there was no question about the road we were getting ready to kind of try to help hold your hand while you were walking through. There was no, walk in the park, but we knew what that was going to look like up front, and it made all the difference in the world. So I just kind of wanted to. And
it's a two-way discussion. You ask your physician, what are your expectations? What's your plan? What do you want for me? What can you do for me? It's a good conversation to have. It really is. Everybody's on notice now, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. Drive. You have to drive your own survival.
And it's so challenging, the dynamic, being a family member of someone who's like, the matriarch, like the center of your family, all of a sudden become like this person who actually, instead of just providing help for everyone, is needing help but not asking for it. God knows that would be terrible to ask for help. The helpless feeling that was is being a kid. And I know that Tony, the same thing, and friends and family members. It's a challenge and it's a struggle. So in spite of the fact that that's a difficult conversation for a lot of people to have, whether the physician's in the room or not, I encourage you to have it because it's so important for everyone involved.
And And, maybe that's where we can start this tonight after we go around the room and hear a little bit about everybody's story. Then maybe we can start the conversation about, A, coping with the diagnosis, because that's one thing that, it's like getting hit by an 18-wheeler, and, how you cope through that. And then you do have a plan, and how you get through that as well with your children and your families and what have you. Does that sound like a good thing to do tonight?
We can get there. It's on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Andre, I don't know if you have anything you want to add from back behind the speaker. So Andre is the younger sister, as we already pointed out earlier, and she helps facilitate the online folks. So the folks that are dialing in from around the globe get to ask questions online and chat. So that's Andrea. Hi.
So, yes, I'm the online behind the scenes. I'm not sitting up front today. I have to go pick up my daughter, have to sneak out for a few minutes. But I think being, I'd like to go on to what my mom and my sister said, because I think in 2014, it was almost an archaic time to be diagnosed with lung cancer.
2004.
2004.
What did I say?
14.
14. I'm behind a couple years. In 2004, it was such an archaic time to be diagnosed, and our mom was fortunate to have an outside-the-box physician, surgeon, pulmonologist team, and was kind of taught early on. And so we look at now, there's no excuses to not have that team, and especially with all the amazing things that are happening. Our mom referenced ASCO, and every year we kind of dread going to ASCO, but we always come back so excited and so pumped up, because the talk is lung cancer now. But your voice matters. Your voice needs to be heard, and not just your voice, your loved ones. And it's just super important. And we do attribute it to the reason why our mom is here today, because she was told no. There's nothing.
It did take more than one visit with other physicians before I landed on somebody that said they would try to kick it out of the park.
And that's an important point, because we literally had to put together our own team. Our physicians weren't all from the same place, right? Back in, however long ago, we said it was 13 years ago, finding a comprehensive lung cancer team, I mean, they weren't around. There were comprehensive breast teams, and
Colon and prostate, and that's why they were doing so well.
It was really hard to have to put together the team, and I think that's one of the things you said back then about, coming out the knothole, if you will, making it so other people it shouldn't be that hard to get good quality care. And I just want to point out something Andrea said about dreading ASCO, because that's not necessarily because of the wonderful information coming out of it. It's because it literally is like speed dating for 5 days from 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. in meeting after meeting and session after session. There's so much great stuff going on. It's
Well, there's
exhausting.
20,000 people there.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. The convention center is huge, and it's attached to huge hotels. And you have a meeting at 9 o'clock with this person in the Grand Hyatt, and then your next meeting is in the convention center on the 4th floor south. And you're walking around with these maps, and
Yeah, the meetings are all over.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Before you go on to the next deal, one takeaway that I had from ASCO is at every single one of our meetings, whether it was our industry partners or just general partners, they asked, how can we get the information to the patients? Mm-hmm. It's their key. They want to get you guys the information, whether it's, information about a new product, information about resources, whether it's help with co-pays or anything. They want to know how they can get you guys that information, and they are smart, and they do come to advocacy groups like us.
Yeah.
So.
And next month we have Jonathan Rees from University of UC Davis coming to talk about Best of ASCO, but we're going to have other pharmaceutical representatives here as well, and some other people that are in like blood biopsy work and various different things. So there'll be quite a crowd with lot to ask questions and a lot of solutions.
So I'm going to look at Katie. Sorry. If you just introduce yourself and talk about, you have a nice sort of caregiver perspective as well.
Yeah. So my name's Katie Wilcox. I'm on the events team here at the foundation. I actually moved over from the corporate world so I had volunteered for a long time, but my mom had passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So when that happened, I said I need to take what I'm doing from a volunteer standpoint and turn it into a career. So before this, I was with the American Cancer Society, and then I moved over to this foundation because I was so inspired by the work they were doing. And we're really such a small team, but I feel the impact we make is such a big impact. And we're able to touch patients internationally through the living room like this. And it's a pretty powerful foundation to work for. So it's wonderful to see everybody here participating in these types of conversations. And our team is here to support you guys in whatever you need. So awesome.
Thanks, Katie.
My name's Dave, and I was diagnosed with lung cancer back in March of this year, so I'm relatively new. And they quickly figured out my particular type of tumor and the drug that I would take, so I've been on Tarceva now for almost 3 months. And good news, I had my scan last week and met with my oncologist, and my tumors have shrunk in half, so in 3 months. So yeah, that'll kind of make you short-winded pretty quick. Anyway, so the things that I would like to talk about would be if there's other Tarceva patients. I know we've got at least a few in the room tonight. I would certainly like to pick your brain as to things I can expect long-term, because it looks like I'll be on this for a while. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thanks, Dave.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Dorshkin, and I was diagnosed in 2011 with non-small cell adenocarcinoma and had surgery removing one of the lobes. And then that was followed by chemo in case there were any microscopic cells floating around my body. And I was lucky to have a very supportive team too, both medically and my family. And you brought up, how it is to get that diagnosis. And it was, of course, I'm sure as everybody knows, it's a huge shock, and you don't really know how to process it. And, I had a task right away. What do I do right away? And eventually, within 2 weeks, I had the surgery, and I had confirmation from I was able to find a second opinion and know that that was the route I needed to go. And anyway, now I thought I was home free after that chemo and the removal of the major tumor, but then it came back and metastasized in my lungs only, and luckily there's been no lymph node involvement, and I've been on maintenance chemo, different series of 2 drugs each time ever since, and I get it every 2 weeks, my chemo, except if I'm traveling or doing something fun, then I postpone it. So and I just had my chemo today. Its effects, if anybody's interested, I can go over the drugs. I'll just mention it's Abraxane and Avastin at this point, but I have had other drugs. And it seems to be easy for me to tolerate. I do get tired. I kind of lose my appetite for a week, but then the second week I can eat anything I want, so that's all right. It works okay for me. So I don't know. I'm happy to answer questions. I want to provide hope for people newly diagnosed, that it's been over 6 years since I was diagnosed, and I'm still feeling good and having good scans, and the doctors say, we just keep hoping for new developments at the conferences and eventually, if these drugs stop working, I'll go on to something else. And my doctor seems to feel he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and so anyway, things are going well for me, thank goodness.
One note of encouragement is that more drugs have been approved in the last 18 months than there have been in the last 4 decades for lung cancer. that story, we wouldn't have heard that 10 years ago.
No, people have been saying that things are happening, lots of things are happening. You know, if you can just hang in there and, you know, then maybe we'll find something that can address my cancer. It's KRAS mutation, and that there are no targeted drugs like yours. But hopefully soon. And then I wanted to just touch quickly on something serious. When I was diagnosed, you know, I assumed I wasn't going to live very long. This one doctor did tell me that only 1% of the patients live 5 years, which I didn't ask him either. So I wasn't happy to have him tell me that. But I managed to find a silver lining, and my family had serious conversations about that. You know, we addressed some serious issues, a few tears, lots of hugs. That was all positive. And then I found something I could be happy about. I wasn't going to turn into a decrepit old person who depended on my children and a burden on my children. So that's how I coped with the idea that I wasn't going to live that long. But now, I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
And I think it's important.
But keep going where you're going. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
I think
awesome.
it's important too, because Carol, you're not the first person who said that their physician has offered up some information that may or may not be relevant to you and your cancer or how you're going to react, right? And we talk about it all the time. Everyone's cancer is different. Your cancer is your own. So although there's benefit in talking to one another, you know, about managing side effects or how you're reacting, like you're saying, Dave, like what to expect on Tarceva down the road, that sort of thing. It's really helpful in groups like this. No two people are necessarily going to react the same to any drug. So it's important that we don't. Nobody gets to decide when someone or its time is or isn't up, and it frustrates me beyond belief when we hear over and over and over again, well, you know, statistics will say, and first of all, when you get online and you look at statistics, whether they're coming from SEER or ACS or whatever, they're typically several years in the rear. So they haven't even caught up with what's been going on in the last 5 years, let alone the last, 3 weeks. 2 new drugs were approved. That's not identified anywhere in the data that you're finding online. So it's challenging.
One of the docs we work with, his name is David Gandara from UCSF, UC Davis up in Sacramento. And he's done several living rooms, amazing oncologist, but he's also an amazing researcher, and he's part of everything involved out there in the world in lung cancer. And one of the living rooms he was in, and I know I keep telling this story for some of the folks that have seen David, but it's so hopeful for new patients. I remember one time he was in here and he said, how many different kinds of lung cancer do you think there are? So I'm going to ask you, how many different kinds of lung cancer do you think there are? You raise a hand.
Everybody else has heard it.
You got anything?
Raise your hand if you already know the answer.
If you have a guess.
There you go.
Okay. So he said, there are as many lung cancers as there are people that have it. Because every single person is different. And we know, and his analogy is that we know that our fingerprint is unique to us, and no one else has the exact same fingerprint. Well, nobody has the exact same body print as you do either. Nobody has the same genomic profile that you have. So all of these various therapies work differently on people. Some, last a long time, some not so much. Some of the immunotherapies, last a really long time, some not so much. We're getting to the age of chronically managing, lung cancer. So it's step by step.
So and that's great point, Mom. Thank you. And I think one of the things I want to point out, and Carol, you said something that kind of sparked the comment in my mind, when we're looking, and then of course if everyone's cancer is unique to them, all of this points back to why it's so important that you're working with somebody who's an expert in your disease. I cannot stress it enough. when you look at the number of cancers, when you go from solid tumors cross over into blood cancers, there's a little over 100, right? So if you walk into, particularly in the rural areas, it's a big challenge. You walk into a general oncologist's office and he's expected to treat whatever walks in the door. And in my opinion, it's not fair to expect this one human being to know everything there is to know about all 100 cancers. He's not a computer. How does he know? How does he know if he hasn't looked at the guidelines in 2 months that there were 2 new drugs approved for lung cancer last week, right? When lung cancer is not all he's treating. So I cannot stress enough, and we can help for anybody online or anybody who comes back and watches this after, we can help facilitate those second opinions around the world with folks who specialize in lung cancer. So I just want to spit that out really quick.
And who are most of the physicians that Danielle's talking about in rural areas or even, around the corner are more than willing to listen to the expert that you bring to the table. You go and get the second opinion, and then you put the docs together, and they start talking to each other. And the oncologist you have in that particular area is listening, and they're working together as a team.
Yeah, and I've had patients say, well, why do I have to come to you for that information and then bring it back to my doctor? Isn't this what he or she went to school with? But again, I point back to, I don't feel like it's fair. Long gone are the days when a physician's desk reference came out every year and you could just kind of look up whatever the ailment was and the answer was right there because nothing was really changing that fast. Things are changing so quickly that it's ever so important. It's never been more important, I don't think, than it is now.
And to Danielle's point, there's a Bible that the oncologists go by, and it's called the NCCN Guidelines. Well, it's not updated, every couple of months. It takes a while for the new information that was delivered at ASCO to get into that guidebook. So are they giving you good information? As good as they've got. But you want today's information. You want what's going on right now. And that's out there for you, and we can help you. We can help you make sure you get that.
We'll continue to beat that dead horse at probably every lung cancer living room there is.
Right.
Over and over. Fred, sorry, your turn.
My name is Fred Palmer, and I was diagnosed with non-small cell lung cancer in October of 2013. I'm currently on immunotherapy, and when I was first diagnosed, immunotherapy didn't exist.
Yep.
But wait a second. Where are you going Sunday? You're leaving Sunday. What are you going to do?
Give the mic.
I'm going on a 3-week tour that involves my family.
Driving
Well, yes.
all over the United States.
Well, from Chicago to the East Coast.
Yeah, he's driving a lot.
It'll be fun.
But that's exciting. That's exciting that you can have, late stage cancer, anything, and be planning like that. And you should be. You should be. I can't stress that enough. Don't put your life on hold for cancer, because then cancer's winning. Don't let it win.
Hi, my name's Rick. I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell adenocarcinoma back in February of 2015. Went through a year of chemo at Kaiser Santa Clara. In between there, I had, when one of the drugs was not, my tumor didn't respond to it, they removed my adrenal gland. And 4 months of chemo after that, and my scans have been clear, and I've been 16 months cancer-free. So life is good. And like Carol was saying, it gave me an action plan to wrap up all those loose ends to get the trust done and the will and
Which we should all do anyway.
and get
Right.
the polls
Spite of a
posted on the door and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been good. It took me, though, being at Kaiser, I don't know if it happens elsewhere, took me 4 months to find the Addario Foundation. And so I was, searching high and low, trying to get information about the disease. And just looking on the internet, you go to so many different weird places and weird remedies. But I was just curious, do you guys get a chance to put in front of organizations like Kaiser, Palo Alto Med?
Oh my God, this makes me crazy, okay? This makes me absolutely crazy.
There we go.
There was an oncologist in Kaiser who had lung cancer. They come to our 5K run in September every year. There's like 100 people from Kaiser Permanente there. It's not that we're not doing the talking. We're not talking to each
it's
other.
not just Kaiser. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens all the time. So we do have conversations. To answer your question, we sit down in front of these guys all the time, provide them with all of our materials, our support services, so on and so forth. There's varying reasons why that information doesn't always get passed down to the patients, and we've identified those as gaps that we're currently trying to figure out how to fill. So any and all information or advice or suggestions you guys might have on how to better have these conversations and ensure, that this important information is getting down to you. We're all ears.
And you all can help, and the people online can help. When you're talking to people, tell them that we're a resource, for them, and give them our information. I don't remember how many patients are diagnosed every 3 minutes of lung cancer. It's ridiculous amounts
It's a
of
lot.
people.
I don't remember by the minute. It's 225,000 a year in the U.S.
Who's paying attention?
7.
Sam, do you know?
I don't
Anybody
remember.
know? Everybody should know. I knew that. 19 an hour. I know it's 19 an hour. I can't remember. If you do the math.
Well, 19 an
What
hour
is
is-
19 divided by 60, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's the biggest cancer in the world. It's for men and women. So everybody, if you just chatted at a table, a lunch table, where you didn't know anybody and you started talking, somebody at the table would say, oh, my mother, my father, and my grandfather, they would say somebody has lung cancer.
I know
Katie,
from my point, I end up, whenever I come to the living rooms, I always take a couple of the 360 Degrees of Hope, the
Awesome.
book, and
Yeah.
I get the USB flash drives.
Yeah, that's great.
And I give them
Yeah.
to new patients in the other support groups that I'm at Kaiser and Stanford.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Anybody
Yeah.
who wants to take handbook or USB drives with them
Throw 'em in your
tonight,
trunk,
please feel free. Come
right,
go
yeah,
see Sam.
yeah.
She will hand you whatever
Yeah.
materials you need. Katie, I think
That's
you had a
exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say locally, we've really tapped into hospitals and physicians in this area, but we could always do more. But people who are tuning in from other parts of the world, if you reach out to us, we are more than happy to mail you material or get you material, and then you could take that to your hospitals, pass it along to patients, and we've had patients do that for us. And that, again, we're a small team, so to be able to have that support in places like Chicago or South Carolina, Spartanburg, where we do an event, is a huge, huge help of on-the-ground support. So we are definitely open to that.
That's a great point, Katie. Anybody who wants to be an ambassador on the ground wherever you are in the world, we're happy to send you the information. And locally, it's sort of proof positive, that it does work, because we get new patients coming in from here all the time.
And it's crazy. I actually got someone from Prague, a second opinion one time, that's dialed in from another country. And you think, how is it that 140 people in 143 countries know about us, and you, who live in the community, doesn't? I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to resolve that, but we work on it on a daily basis to make that happen. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. Miss Sally?
You talk about archaic, and I'm going back to 1975 when my mother was diagnosed. And she was just told, you're going to have surgery, we're going to remove it. Afterwards, you're going to be fine. No talking of staging or anything like that. And I asked about the biopsy and was told to go home and stick to cooking my chicken soup. And then 2.5 years later, my mother got it in the other lung. And I asked the prognosis and was told, it's not good. She lives 18 more years. So there's hope for everybody, but they sure do things differently today, and thank God for that. I was at high risk because my mother, her brother, and my paternal grandfather had lung cancer. And I also had been a smoker, but I had quit many years before. And I found out there was a study looking to see if they could find lung cancer earlier with a low-dose CAT scan than with the x-rays. Because they used to say back in my mother's day, by the time they saw it on an x-ray, it was too late. But she was lucky. Anyway, so I read and heard about the International Early Lung Cancer Assessment Program, and I got in touch with, they were doing it at that time out of Peninsula Hospital, the cancer center, and I called them and I got in on that. And what they were doing was you had to meet the requirements, and I did. You had to be what they called a 30-pack year smoker, which meant you had 30 packs within that amount of time, a year rather. You could smoke 5 a day, or 5 packs a day, or 1 pack a day, whatever. Anyway, I just qualified because I almost missed out because I had quit so many years before. So that was 2004, and they told me I had nodules, and of course I panicked. But they said they didn't feel they were cancerous and that they would keep checking them. And they do. And then I went running to my own doctor because I didn't believe what they were telling me. And I was reassured that they would be watching these. They were small nodules. And they did. Every year I was part of this study, and I got another low-dose CAT scan. And in 2009, I went expecting to be told same thing, that nothing changed, and got a shock when they called me the next day to tell me that they felt I had lung cancer, that one of them had grown. But it was found very early, so I was very fortunate. I had surgery. Nothing had spread anywhere else. I still have other nodules, one that's grown a little bit, but not enough to do anything about yet. I'm watched very closely by my oncologist, and I can't say enough about if you think you're at high risk for lung cancer to make sure you get a CAT scan, low-dose CAT scan.
Thanks, Sally.
And even if you don't qualify for the screening program, which drives me crazy that it's only for smokers, it's still, again, the only cancer that is alienated. Talk to your pulmonologist or your primary physician, and if you've got it in your family or you've got a cough that you've had for a while and whatever, just demand a CAT scan.
And
just demand it.
Yeah,
Tell
the
them you want
guidelines
it.
as they come through, just for anybody who might be interested because of a friend or family member that they might want to share the information with, the guidelines as they sit right now through the National Lung Cancer Screening Trial is 55 and over with a 30-pack year history. So either a pack a day for 30 years or 2 packs a day for 15 years and not quit within X amount of time, similar to ILCAP. The guidelines for ILCAP are a little less stringent. So, for example, you only have to be 40, you don't have to be 55, and there are ILCAP sites still open. So if anybody wants more information on that, we're happy to provide it. And for and through ILCAP, I think it's 100 cigarettes in a lifetime and I joke, but it's like one bad weekend in college, right?
Right,
it's like
exactly.
You never,
Exactly,
for a lot of people, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you, Sally.
Tina.
My name's Tina, and I was diagnosed in 2010, so I'm really, really happy to be here. I did chemo and radiation, and then I was also tested positive for the EGFR mutation. So after the chemo and radiation, I went on Tarceva, I guess more or less insurance, and I've been on it ever since, and that's been 6 years on the Tarceva. Last week I had a clean scan again and also a clean brain scan. I had an MRI too, so
Nice.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice.
My doctor said last week, he said, you've been on this Tarceva for a very long time. We're kind of at a crossroads here. And I thought he might be saying, do you want to stop taking it and but I wasn't sure. I mean, I don't think really well when I go see my doctor after a scan. I'm just like, anxious about everything. But he said, how would you like to be part of a study for liquid biopsy? And it is a blood test. And he said, would you be willing to give a few tubes of blood? And I said, sure, I'll do it. And
Oh my goodness. Sorry, so sorry,
Okay.
so sorry. I got it. Boop, bong, dong.
Oh, no. No, you didn't. Sorry. Hold on, I got it now.
so what I understand,
Wow. It's Lisa
what I
Molina, by the
understand,
way.
which probably isn't exactly right.
Come take the phone. I don't know what's happening. Sorry, Tina. Hold on.
Okay.
She's still talking.
I'm trying to hit it off. Just give it to Andrea. She can. Sorry. It's Lisa Molina. Hi, Lisa.
My girlfriend.
So what I understand about the liquid biopsy, it's a blood biopsy, and they will be able to find sloughed-off cancer cells.
Yeah.
And to explain it, he said it's like finding a red straw in a haystack, not a needle in a haystack. It's like all straw, and one straw is red. But does that sound right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's this Joel.
Yeah.
It's Joel, yeah. Well, tumors shed. They do.
Yes.
And that's really actually a great conversation starter.
So I'm not sure exactly which liquid biopsy study it is. I'm interested, and I want to know which one it is. There are
it's
so
Stanford.
many.
It's Stanford.
Yeah.
Stanford.
And I'm sure they've got more than one liquid biopsy going
have
on
it.
at Stanford.
I have it in my.
Yeah, I would love to see it because I'm curious because I think does this pertain particularly to EGFR and its or not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of his thing, though. He's kind of a Tarcivit.
Yeah, and the way you were kind of explaining it earlier, if they see the sloughing off, and as everybody may or may not know, the idea behind liquid biopsies, which although still aren't the gold standard, are showing huge promise in several different areas. The idea being that if there's a cancerous or tumor or malignancy, it sheds off cells that then get circulated in the blood, and these tests are sensitive enough to pick that up. So whether it's a malignancy, and a diagnosis that way, or different mutations, there's a bunch of different ways that they're using it. I'm not sure how they're trying, what they're trying to validate in this study, but I'm excited about it, and I'm more excited that you're participating, because participating in research is huge.
Yeah, that's great. The really great news today about blood-based biopsies, they can't be used for pathology purposes. So when you're first diagnosed, they have to have the tissue to identify not necessarily your marker, yes, your markers, but what kind of cancer you have, adenocarcinoma, small cell, large cell, whatever. So the beauty of the blood-based biopsies these days are the thought process that after you've been diagnosed and you have your, if you have your follow-up and your scans and what have you, that maybe we don't need that many CT scans. Maybe we do blood tests to replace the scans. And if there is, some cancer visible in the blood, then we take the scan, see what's going on, and it may not even show up in the lung just yet. So this would be a great way to see that things are happening, but you haven't seen it in a CT scan yet. So you can actually start treatment before you see it, which is awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's one way. One of the things that they're looking at it, to see if they can pick up resistance mutations. The gold standard is still, as you just said, the tissue, particularly at diagnosis, grabbing that tissue, running it through, whether it's a comprehensive genomic profiling or, a basic lung panel to see what your cancer looks like. But then some folks can't have tissue biopsies. It's either too dangerous or they have comorbidities or things going on like that. So the liquid biopsy is a good second option, even in that sort of frontline setting, to potentially look and see if they can see anything. We had a liquid biopsy living room maybe 3 or 4 months ago now. So anybody who wants a deeper dive information into that, I highly recommend you go back to the video library. You don't have to do the whole 2 hours. It's about 30 minutes, but it takes a real deep dive look into where liquid biopsies are now and where they're going, and it's an exciting place. Can you imagine not having to have a fine needle aspiration?
Well, and it's
or bronchoscopy?
It's absolutely the best way possible to chronically manage your cancer without doing invasive biopsies in your lung tissue, because what comes with that is the potential of collapsed lungs and stays in hospitals and all kinds of things. So we really have a lot of hope about blood-based biopsies. So that's great, Tina, for you to participate in.
I feel really excited about it.
And it's great for you as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. And when we were saying a little while ago that more drugs have been approved by the FDA in the last 18 months than the last 4 decades, is just amazing news. I mean, there's multiple, I don't even know what the amount is now. It's over 20.
What, drugs?
Yeah, in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And the genomic markers are the things that match up the drug to those markers. So the plethora of options you have now is so much greater than it even was a year and a half ago. And a year and a half from now, it's going to be triple that.
Yeah.
So, it's nothing but good news.
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of hope. A lot of hope out there.
A lot of hope. A lot of hope.
Hopefully you'll be able to answer some EGFR questions
Yeah,
after we,
exactly.
or Tarceva questions.
As you know, my beautiful wife to my right, I'm Rick, by the way, is passionate about trying to support the fight against lung cancer.
Yeah.
And for her to be able to get into this thing, it's really cool because clinical trials, she never qualified for a clinical trial because she never had anything to do. I mean, it's like she took Tarceva and did her chemo and radiation, and she had clean scans forever, and so she never had to worry about it. She's pretty excited.
That's awesome.
And so am I.
Well, we're really big believers in patients being part of the solution. Clinical research is called from the bench to the patient and back to the bench. I think that's lopsided.
Explain what the bench is.
Okay, the bench is research, the research lab. So research lab to the patient, back to the research lab. I think that's completely upside down because it's the patient that's donating these specimens. Whenever you give blood, when you give tissue for pathology or whatever it is, there is no research without you. None. I think it's from the patient to the bench and back to the patient. That's transformative. And they're starting to get that. They're starting to get that. We are part of curing cancer in a big way, probably the major part of curing cancer. They can't do it without us, with our stuff. They need our stuff.
And then maybe, Rick, when we come back around, you can give a little bit of the caregiver support perspective if need be, because I know you're equally as knee-deep in this fight. Tina says no.
Tina, does that mean he's not cooking or cleaning or vacuuming or anything? Yeah, right, exactly. Well, you know what? That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. That was like, no, he's not doing anything.
Danny.
Okay, Miss Danny.
You want to go to the back row first? Did you guys in the back row, anybody want to? I know that's sort of if you don't want to talk, you don't have to.
And talk. Okay.
It's the safe zone.
How about? Okay, look how cute they are.
My name is Bessie Chin, and I was diagnosed in April this year. And it's EGFR, non-small cell lung cancer. And right now I'm in Arisa. And
Okay.
I haven't taken the next CAT scan yet. The biopsy is negative.
Negative for.
I think I should have him talk to him for me.
Right, he's sucking.
You saw Dr. Gadara.
my son took me to see Dr. Gondera
Yeah.
in UC Davis.
Yep.
And he said it's negative. Okay, liquid biopsy is negative.
Okay, that's
Negative
awesome.
for,
There's nothing in it.
After the ERISA.
It's clean.
Yeah, it's clean.
Yeah, got it. That's great.
And right now, my biggest problem is my skin. My skin is so dry. I like to find out what is good for the dry skin.
Okay.
So any little sun that hits me, my skin is like a
Okay.
sandpaper.
Okay.
And the second thing is my diet. Because I lost about 10 pounds before I discovered I had lung cancer.
Okay.
And the coughing stopped. But the diet to put the food in is really hard.
Okay. Have you tried Ensure?
Oh, all kinds.
Ensure. It comes in a can, and it has something like, I don't know, 200 and some
Protein
odd calories.
powder.
yeah.
Yeah. No powder. It's liquid.
Yes,
and then
I
you
have
mix
Ensure.
it, and then you put in some ice cream and a banana, and it tastes really, really good.
It's whipped
And it's
cream
got
on
a lot
top.
of calories in it.
Oh, okay.
So
Strawberries.
is it a nausea thing, a loss of appetite thing?
Just lost appetite. But actually, I
Lost
lost my appetite for a long
Okay.
time now.
Yeah.
There's
But
a-
it's
So-
starting to come back now. A little bit.
Not really. I eat, but eat very small portion. Tiny
Okay.
little bit. That's it.
So have you talked to your physician about the loss of appetite?
Yes, the dietitian say keep taking protein drink. I have
Yeah.
all kind of
Yeah.
protein.
Have you talked to
Yeah.
your physician about it though? Not the dietitian, your actual doctor, your medical oncologist?
When I started, not now, but I did tell him that I lost 10 pounds.
Yeah. I would talk to him or her about it because there are drugs out there available that they could prescribe that could help increase the appetite. It's really important, and we say it all the time, that you maintain your weight. And that the minute you feel, whether it's nausea or diarrhea or vomiting or loss of appetite, talk about shared decision making and having that conversation with your physician. It's very, very important because you don't want it to get out of control where the side effects become worse than the actual disease. That we see that happen a lot. So have that conversation with your doctor.
Do they normally give you medicine?
They can give you medicine.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
That will help increase the appetite.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the dry skin. If I
So I
can
don't know
eat anyone, what's good for dry skin?
Yeah, I don't know if any of our EGFR patients have any dry skin, tarsiva, rash remedies. I know.
Are
I
you-
have
is anybody-
anecdotally when you have Mike.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, I use Cetaphil. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with Cetaphil?
Yeah, Cetaphil.
Yes, there's a cleanser as well as a lotion.
Yeah.
Two different products. And so I bathe completely from my scalp all the way to my toes with the cleanser. And then I let it dry. And I use the lotion on my face. And I literally gob it on. So there's still streaks all over my face. And I just let it dry in over the next 20 minutes. And, rub out whatever's left. And that really seems to help.
And
So-
multiple times a day.
yes.
Not just in the morning.
Correct.
A little bit in
Correct.
the afternoon and
So
night
I would
when you
take
go
a
to bed.
washcloth. It's mostly your face? Yeah, so I would take a washcloth with the cleanser maybe a couple times a day to wash, and then follow that up with the lotion a couple times a day, and especially before you go to bed.
Okay.
and the way it happens with a lot of patients with the rash is the longer you're on the drug, the more your body adjusts to it, so that starts to sort of dissipate and go away.
Okay.
So that's the sort of light at the end of the tunnel. And I've had patients say that aloe vera straight from the plant, not like the one you buy on the shelf, but if you buy an aloe vera plant and break it open and use the natural aloe vera, that's very helpful as
Okay.
well.
But I want to say one more thing about your diet, and I get to do this because I'm not a doctor, but because I have been a patient, I get to give remedies.
Yeah.
Chicken noodle soup.
Okay.
Sounds crazy, but because and you wouldn't give that to a diabetic or other people because there's a lot of sodium in it and a lot of salt. But because when you're on drugs, regardless of what your malady is, you lose your taste buds. And when you lose your taste buds, you really don't have the desire to eat because you can't taste anything, and it's like eating rubber or chewing rubber bands. But chicken noodle soup has so much sodium and salt in it, you actually can taste it. And it's kind of warm and feels good going down your throat, and all of a sudden you're starting to feel good. Ronnie, you right? I'm serious.
Sodium and spicy food
I'm
seem
serious.
to be the way for most people to
just,
go.
Make it taste good. Are there things that you enjoyed before you were diagnosed? What's your favorite food?
Oh, vegetable.
Vegetables. Well, those are great, but you're not going to gain a lot of weight eating those. You need some carbs. Another thing I know when I was sick, mashed potatoes in butter and salt.
And garlic.
Also good for gaining weight. Noodles and butter and salt. Those are all things physicians in normal circumstances are saying, no, don't eat that, don't do that. But you need to put that 10 pounds back on.
Yeah, and just as a side note, since we're talking about the food thing, quite often we have patients ask us, about the sugar and the diet and this, that, and the other. And we had a physician from Dana-Farber come out last year and talk, that question came up. And he was like, malarkey. He said there was absolutely zero data to prove that sugar is going to make your cancer grow any faster than it may or may not have, whether you had the milkshake or you didn't. So he's like, have the milkshake.
Eat, eat, drink.
Everything in moderation.
Do it.
Everything in moderation, yeah.
Is there anything on medical marijuana? I mean,
that
it used to
increases
give you
your appetite.
munchies, so
Yeah, it's interesting.
But without smoking, they have
edibles and oils. So we get this question a lot, and in fact, we get calls from other states where medical marijuana has not been legalized. And they're like, well, can you go get some and send it to me? I'm like, I can't. I'd love to, but I can't. But yeah, you could absolutely get a medical marijuana card, and you don't want to smoke it. I don't encourage smoking it. But they come in like gummy bears, and then they come in little oils where you can just put a drop of oil under your tongue or whatever.
I think she knows too much about this. I don't know.
I've had a lot of people call, and I would recommend starting with whatever half the dose they recommend is until you. So here's the way medical marijuana works. So there's THC, which is the part that gets you high. And then there's CBDs, which is the medicinal part. So typically when they make the edibles, they're higher in CBDs and lower in THC. So it doesn't have the crazy making drug so much as it does the medicinal part.
And when you're on therapies, when you're sick, the therapies don't do the same thing as when you're well. When you're well and you take an opioid or you take marijuana or whatever, you get these kind of crazy sidebars. But when you're ill, for some reason, it goes to reduce the illness and reduce the side effects. It just does. It doesn't make you goofy. So
yeah, I would recommend talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Katie.
Local physician, and I just wrote down her name because maybe she can come and speak one time, but her name's Rebecca Katz, and she wrote an unbelievable cookbook, and it's called The Cancer Fighting
She's been
Cookbook.
here.
Has she been here?
Before you came, she's done the
Oh, I
living
didn't
room.
even know that.
Yeah, mhm.
But she has, it reminded me, because she
And
has
she
a
made this
delicious
soup.
chicken noodle soup recipe.
Yes.
And it has
Yes.
a ton of vegetables, so you might want to
Rebecca
check it out.
Broder drinks it all the time.
Rebecca Katz, her chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, Kate, come talk to Katie or I after.
Yeah.
So, and there's a living room segment. I don't know, we might not have been filming at that time. She came in fairly early on, and she's got the Cancer Fighting Kitchen and I think a couple of others.
Yeah.
She's got fantastic recipes. We actually made food from the cookbook for the living room tonight.
Yeah, we did.
And there's a lot of different herbs and talking about taste and what does and doesn't taste good. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. And it's Rebecca, Katz. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And we'll get her back. We did.
Remember, we made
all
the
of the
food,
food
yeah.
was from her cookbook.
Mm-hmm. We spent all day, Sally, in the kitchen.
But carbs.
Yeah.
You have to report back next month. We want to see you at least 5 pounds up.
That's it.
Okay?
You have 4 weeks to gain 5 pounds.
Okay.
Challenge.
4 weeks, 5 pounds. You can do it.
I could do it in a weekend.
Right. I think I did it today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
And do either, nope, okay.
Yeah, so I am a familiar patient here in the living room, and thank you so much for always supporting me. And in fact, I was diagnosed 4 years and a half. 4.5 years ago for the non-carcinoma stage 3A, and I did all the lobectomy, radiation, chemo, and the doctor found out that a few months later that I still have a cancer cell in the lymph node, so they gave me the genomic testing, and I was discovered with ALK. So I used the crizotinib for 3 years and a half, and it worked well. Last week, I had a small setback that they found some spot in my brain, just very small. So they, my physician gave me a new drug now that is supposed to cross the brain-blood barrier, which is alectinib.
Great.
Yeah. So my question is, well, first, alectinib, I just used few days, but he warned me, my physician, my oncologist warned me that it will give me some muscular pain, and indeed, every day I wake up like I was be boxing the whole day, very in pain, and my back hurts, and I could not live, I cannot live a lot of things. Why with crizotinib it was a little bit easier. So I'm hoping that it's just because my body is just adjusting with the new drug, and I'm just wondering do I need to have some cyber knife zapping or not, but the doctor say that maybe it's too small, so right now don't need to because alectinib is supposed to work in the brain. So I'm just, well, of course, I was a little bit disappointed with this MRI, but thank God we got caught soon enough. And as you said, I'm still hopeful that we have new medicine coming out, and if alectinib is not working, probably, hopefully, new stuff working, because ALK is somewhat, it's like EGFR. ALK, like with ROS, we have a lot of medicine, I understood. So
yeah, there are several other medications. Alectinib, in the studies and the data coming out of it, showed huge effectiveness in crossing the blood-brain barrier. So that's great news. So did you consult? Where are you being treated?
Stanford. Dr. Neil.
Dr. Neil's doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So did he let you consult with the radiation oncologist about maybe a cyber knife or no? I don't know enough about it.
Right now, no need to at this point because it's small.
Yeah.
And we will see what alectinib
if it takes care of it.
Did it to my or will make my
And that's great because we can save the other for down the road if we need it, and think chronically managing.
Yeah. Well, even though it was a bit scary, but I think that I have 3 years and a half with crizotinib, and it with a good quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hopeful that alectinib will do the same, and maybe I will buy some time, and maybe in 3 years and a half from now they will find some more medicine.
Yep.
We never know.
Yeah.
So I'm just try to be positive and just try to manage, not be feeling too in pain with like running the 30K marathon every day, being beaten up every day. So.
I would definitely talk to him about the musculoskeletal pain though, and see if he has any recommendations. Again, anytime there's a side effect, you just want to bring it to your doctor's attention as soon as possible, rather than waiting until it gets so bad that now you wind up in the emergency room or something like that, because because you waited too long. Just at least bring it to Dr. Neal's attention and let him know.
But I have a question. Do you drink a lot of water?
Yeah,
Do you drink a lot of water?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you consider a lot?
A lot is like 2 bottles?
2 bottles?
Yeah.
Okay, try 4.
4?
Yeah. Only because, I'm a big believer before you take drugs on drugs,
Yeah.
that, you try to do things in a more natural way.
Yeah.
And very often, if we don't do enough water, we get crampy anyway. I mean, that's just kind of a side effect from not being hydrated.
Yeah.
So, and Danielle's absolutely right. Talk to Dr. Neal. But in the meantime, drink more liquids.
Yeah.
And see if that helps in any way.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for the question. I heard someone, you maybe, this gentleman saying about the immunotherapy. So I'm just, well, of course, I'm hoping that it will work alectinib for a few more years. But immunotherapy, did you hear good things for ALK or for EGFR?
Like my mom said, Dr. Jonathan Reese from UC Davis, he's a medical oncologist up there. He's going to come and do Best of ASCO in July. It's July 18th. Thank you, Michelle. So you definitely don't want to miss it, even if you can't be here. It's a tune in from home and watch, because he's going to give all the highlights. But immunotherapy was yet again all the talk. But this time, the conversation was more around not a single agent use of immunotherapy, but combination. So combination immunotherapy with some other drug.
Right.
So, and it's showing a ton of promise.
And we highly recommend those online and those here. Come next month if you can and you're not on vacation. Go on vacation if that's what you're doing. That's awesome. But so many things are happening right now that, and Jonathan will have all the answers. He's a doctor, so he can actually tell you.
But yeah. So, and even with ALK, there are other. So alectinib, great drug. Genentech's right down the street. But there are a couple of others out there as well.
Yeah.
So the hope, and we talk about this all the time, is managing the disease. If we can chronically manage it and figure out what yours looks like, follow it either with follow-up tissue biopsies or fingers crossed liquid biopsies, get there sooner rather than later to see what or how your cancer might be changing when progression comes along or something like that. And we can look at how we're going to target it. So 2.5 years on crizotinib is fantastic.
In fact, a few years ago, like as you said, a few years ago at my stage, probably I would have not been here talking, because it's just like the survival would have been like 2 years with a lot of suffering.
Yeah, we work with a patient too, just for more hopeful sort of good news. He's 15 years on Aressa now.
Oh.
He's a stage 4 patient. He's been 15 years on Aressa. Well, Aressa, Celebrex, and Maker's Mark.
Oh, so he
So
does
that's
he have EGFR?
No, that's a joke. Well, it's not a joke, it's true. But a long time ago, he was on Aressa, and he was also on Celebrex for a completely different thing. And he was just doing so well, his doctor said, you know what, we're just going to keep you on the Celebrex as well as the Aressa, because why rock the boat? And he's still doing extremely well.
And Tina's, on Tarceva for 6 years. I mean, all of these stories, you never know.
Yeah, you just never know.
So.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's why collecting data, and I encourage all of you, we just launched a patient registry. I encourage all of you to get online and put your data into our registry, because we will be sharing it with researchers and everybody, and it's a way for you to be part of the solution. But, I'm of the belief that we are so unique that who knows that an anti-inflammatory along with a chemotherapy drug isn't a good thing. Because, in many ways, cancer is an inflammation. It's a cell just gone somewhat nuts. And the more data we get beyond the actual therapies that are available today, that maybe there are other things we can do in combination to keep things moving
And
into that chronically managed
and that's
place.
it's a really important, not that I want to get off track and talk about the registry because we've done that, but it's another good reason to consider joining the registry if you haven't, because the only place we're going to be able to pick up these little things and potentially maybe these commonalities is if people are reporting them somewhere.
Right.
Because it's not something that's being picked up and looked at in masses.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think we have some flyers up there you can take with you when you leave. Yeah. And you can see how other patients are doing with the same biomarkers and the same drugs. A little graph will show up, like if you want to see how many other people are on the registry. I think we have about 400 patients there now, and we're looking at having 400,000. So you want to see how people are doing with the EGFR mutation. You type that in, and then the graph will show up. How many people have the EGFR mutation,
how many people are on immunotherapy,
how long they've been on it, and where they're going. So, data right now to chronically manage cancer, we need the data to do that, because who knows, an anti-inflammatory, because things will start to ferret out, and we're going to ask a lot of other questions, not just what cancer drugs you're on, but what other drugs are you on? Do you have diabetes, or do you have something else going on in your body and you're on another drug? We don't know are those things counteracting and making the cancer drug not work as well, or vice versa. Maybe they're boosting. But that's the information over time that's going to really tell us.
Yeah.
Really pinpoint per
Happy to
person.
show anyone who hasn't registered who would like to.
Yeah.
Just come chat with us after, or email us if you're watching online. Let's keep going.
Okay, let's go.
My name is Davelyn Perez. I'm a caregiver. I've coming at cancer as a caregiver, but I started as an employee. I work at Genentech, and so I feel like cancer is all around me, but now it's very personal, much more than working at Genentech, which I love, by the way. My boyfriend presented in 2014 with non-small cell lung cancer, stage 3B, and he went into first-line chemo and radiation, had limited success with that for about 6 months. Then it came back, and he went to second-line chemo and just chemo, and had limited success with that. Went to immunotherapy, was on that for 6 months, and presented with 2 new tumors, one 8 centimeter and one 5 centimeter, while on Opdivo. And so now he's on third-line chemo, which is carboplatin and Taxotere. And I guess my question is, now he's stage 4, and you talk about finding the right doctor. And I just feel like sometimes his doctor has not been the aggressive doctor that I felt like he needed. We've pushed for things like genomic testing, for just all kinds of things, and it's been like, yeah, we'll get you that information. And now here we are in 2017 with his disease progressing, and things like clinical trials have never come to fruition, all these things that, I feel are so incredibly important, and at this point, almost, I don't want to be an alarmist, but too late. Just seem like they should have happened during these years of failed therapy. So can you just talk a little bit more about firing your doctor at stage 4? Is that a smart thing to do?
Did he ever have genomic profiling? Did he have a biomarker test?
You know what? I have not been able to go to all of his appointments because I work. But it seems as though now I have him recording his appointments, and we listen to them together, because in the midst of the appointment, he gets, overwhelmed, and I said, well, let's go back and listen to it together. So he always hears things differently when we listen to it together. But that was something that's just happened over the last, maybe 5 appointments. So I'm not exactly sure where that has landed. If he really, really did have some genomic testing, or if it was just, yeah, we'll set you up with that, and it never really happened.
Yeah, so, we need to find that out. But even if they did it up front at diagnosis, at progression, they should rebiopsy and look and see what has caused that cancer to move, what has changed about that cancer that makes it different now, and what's the best next therapy for that. And then again, at progression, same thing. So let's chat after. You can Michelle's right next to you in the polka dots. I don't know if you've met Michelle.
Good time for a second opinion.
Or myself. Yeah, it's a very good time. And it's not. You don't need to be an alarmist about it. It's not. It's never too late to go see somebody else. And you does not mean anybody has to fire their current oncologist to go make that happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fred.
Yes, just to add to that, there's an organization in San Francisco called the Second Opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And for free, they will take your case and review it with a tumor panel. And it's a rather extensive look at, the biopsies that have been done, your case history and so forth. And they spend about a half a day with you when they actually do this. I've had it done, and it's very, very useful. So it's free if you're a California resident, and it's something I would suggest. And if you want to access it, it's all one word, The Second Opinion. It all runs together.
Great.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, John.
Hi, my name's John Matthews. I used to be a caregiver. My mother was diagnosed in 2011 and passed away in that year. She got a chance to meet Bonnie and her family. I'm from Philadelphia, so they had a 5K out there. And our family has stayed involved with raising money and some during their 5Ks in Philadelphia. So the team is called Kathleen's Crew. We raise $80,000. We do our part to, in Mom's memory, to fight lung cancer. And I'm pleased to say I'm part of the board here at the Lung Cancer Foundation, and it's an important part of my life to do what I can to fight lung cancer for all the people who are, and the families who've been diagnosed and dealing with lung cancer.
But John is also doing something really magnanimous, and I don't use that word lightly. I've only used it about 3 or 4 times in my lifetime. He's going to be riding a bicycle across the United States to raise awareness for lung cancer in his mom's honor. And you want to tell him when you're leaving and
Sure.
when you plan on arriving here in San Francisco, because we can all get together and greet him when he rides over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yep, my family will be here with me. So I leave Philadelphia August 24th. It's going to take about 7 weeks. It's about 3,500 miles. Going through Pennsylvania and Indiana, Illinois, a little bit of Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland. Kansas, I understand, is a little flat and long. Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and then out here to San Francisco. So I'm taking about 7 weeks off from work to do this. And the purpose is for the lung cancer community, and to try to bring everyone together. The name of the ride is called Ride Hard, Breathe Easy. So if you go to ridehardbreatheeasy.com, you'll see our blog out there, and there's a website that's up through Bonnie and her team's help, rhbe.org, which is where people, if you want to join and participate. There's 2 big elements. There's obviously the idea of me going across country I have 40 people helping to plan this, so we can raise money. The goal is to raise $1 million. And then secondly, we've targeted 2 dates where anybody in the world can participate. So while I'm riding across probably Utah at the time, on either September 28th or 29th, anybody in the world can do whatever you choose to fight lung cancer. And so whether you walk hard, breathe easy, or run hard, or swim hard, or work hard, or whatever it is, you do what you choose to do, and then tell us about it. Go to Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media you use, hit hashtag Beat Lung Cancer, and our goal is to get everyone around the world involved. One of our goals from the beginning was, how do we make sure that anybody in the free world can be part of this and do what it doesn't have to be about donating money, but if we all jump in together, we can bring a lot of organizations together towards this. And not only is it Bonnie and her team helping out, but Lung Cancer Alliance has been helping out. I work at SAP, which is a big software company, and they're building an app, and everyone's helping towards this common purpose. And all I got to do is, I I got to keep eating. So if you see me go up and eat again today, it's my third time.
Carb building.
I have to eat.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I'm exercising, getting ready, and I'm excited to get started on August 24th.
That's great. Thanks, John. Okay. We have another right here. No, Danny doesn't get to talk.
Other than John, mine and Bonnie's speech.
Right.
Just so you know.
Right.
Do you want to go to Joan first? Is she?
Joan.
I see her. She's
Okay, she's got her mic.
waiting and
Okay,
holding the
okay,
mic.
Okay.
Hi, Joan.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Joan Fong. I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in October 2013. Never smoked, and so it was like, oh, you got to be kidding, really? You know, and didn't know about how lung cancer can affect anybody, and so that's what we're trying to advocate right now.
Is her mic working? I can't hear her.
It doesn't sound like the mic is working.
Sorry,
Oh.
Joan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you just need to close
there it is.
There you go.
Okay.
Now I can
Okay.
hear you. Sorry.
Okay.
So we've since learned a lot about lung cancer and have been living life very full, traveling, visiting friends, you know, just enjoying a great time. And of course, family, you know, enjoying the time with our family. It's been very good. I've been going through a lot of different kinds of therapy. Nothing seems to last more than 8 months. I've had Tarceva, well, I've had all the targeted therapies. I've had chemotherapy, radiation, the clinical trials. I've had 3 clinical trials, and I was trying to get into another clinical trial, and then they found out that the cancer had taken over half of my liver, and so I don't qualify at this point. But the advantage of trying to get into a clinical trial is that they give you all these tests, these scans that you have to do, and that's how I found out that I had brain mets. I had, you know, liver mets, and they were able to cyberknife those things out. And so it's actually it's a good thing, even if you don't qualify for it, for the clinical trial. You learn a lot about your body, your lung cancer. And let's see what this is new. Right now I'm on, I just started last week on an immunotherapy, Optivo, and so far so good. So we'll see what happens. I definitely notice reduced appetite and fatigue galore. So yeah, just 1 week. And this is my husband extraordinaire. He's a wonderful caregiver and researcher, and so I'm grateful for him.
Hi, I'm Ron. I get to be the caregiver. I'm going to tell you there's fake news out there. Because if you tell me that because Joan has cancer, she's not going to cook anymore, I'm going to tell you it's fake news. She never cooked. But I can tell you that Costco makes an awesome chicken noodle soup that's really cheap. And the chicken broth as well, but chicken noodle soup they make. That's where all those broilers that they didn't sell go, I think. And I want to give hope to you guys that if you read anything on the internet, believe it's fake news. It really is. There's so much data out there, and it's so much misinformation. And the beauty of an event like this is that the data is true news. It's not, oh, somebody said this, and someone said this, and someone said it. There's no filter to know that the patient information that's out there that's being shared is real. So believe that there's no fake news here. This is the real thing. And I want to tell you, don't be passive. You got to be an advocate. It's good that you record those sessions because I read somewhere that 50% of what you hear in a patient's meeting with a doctor is forgotten or misunderstood. And so you really have to have someone taking notes for you or have a recording to go over it. So it's don't be passive. be an advocate for yourself and for your caregiver. For your spouse, and just be proactive. I learned a lot about lung cancer for some reason now, and so.
And Ron is not passive.
No.
I have questions now and then, yeah. And so don't lose hope. You really do need it. This is a wake-up call to get it together. We have a caring bridge, and we talk about living the life compressed. And that's what you need to do, to realize that eventually we're all going to die. Cancer or no cancer, eventually we're all going to kick the bucket. The question is now we have a little alarm bell saying it's happening sooner than you thought, so get your act together, get all that legal stuff, get all that emotional stuff, get that spiritual stuff taken care of so that you know what's going to happen, that you have a legacy that you can be proud of.
And have fun.
And have fun. And we've done a lot of fun in the last 44 months.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it to 60 months.
Yeah.
And she turned 60 in November. So that's 2 60s and beyond that we're trying to shoot for. And we're with Kaiser. We've now had 14 different lines of therapy in trying to attack this. And we'll just keep kicking the can down the road. We heard the big P word the other day from the oncologist about, is that the P word? Chemo brain affects me as well as her, I think. Palliative care, that was the P word.
Palliative.
Palliative care. And we said, holy cow, palliative care, that sounds like hospice. But if you go,
It's not.
hospice, but the thing that we were saying was that from the very get-go, even though we want to make this a chronic manageable disease, there's not a lot of stuff sometimes out there. And so palliative care is not a bad thing. Palliative care means you're going to live a good quality of life for as long as you can.
Yeah.
And that's what our goal is to live a good quality of life, cancer or no cancer. And we're happy to be here and be part of it.
Thanks, Ron. So a couple of things that you said that resonated with me, and I want to make sure that we clarify. Number one, palliative care, to the Fong's point, because I'm sure Joan echoed your sentiment about when you heard it, panic sort of starts to set in because you automatically think of hospice. And we've actually had living rooms about this too, and they need to call it something else, and we here tend to call it supportive care because that's exactly what it is. So when we're talking about managing side effects, and whether it's nausea or loss of appetite or the rash or any of that, talk to your physician about it right away, because supportive care and palliative care go hand in hand. They're the same thing. Let's manage our side effects. Let's ensure that your quality of life is maintaining a level at which there is quality, right? Because otherwise, why are we doing this? So number one. And then number two, I want to commend Ron for constantly keeping us updated, because it really helps when he does come back with the question about what is next, or what do you think about this, or I saw that, for me to have this sheet where I can go back and see Joan's whole history. Like, this is where she started, this is her first line, this is what she was on, this is when she progressed, this is what happened. And it's just this timeline view, real quick snapshot of everything. So I give you huge kudos for doing that. And you didn't email me back yesterday, so we'll talk after the living room. Okay, sorry, I'm done. Fred, did you have a comment?
Yes, Kaiser does have specialists in palliative care.
Yeah.
And they also have social workers.
Yeah.
So and usually the social worker and the palliative care physician.
Yeah.
And they are physicians.
Yeah.
They work hand in hand.
Yeah.
And this is just if you're having trouble with chemotherapy or something like that, you're getting dealing with side effects.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I like to mention, and Ron, stressed this point, when you're doing research on the internet, make sure you look at the date of the entry.
Yeah.
You know, when you see something that is dated 1995, you might want to, do a little follow-up research.
And it might be the third thing that comes up on page one.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to be real careful about that.
Yeah. And one other thing too, to everyone's points here, it's not the institution. Sometimes people have a mindset, it's harder to unlearn people than it is to teach them. They'll think, well, I've been diagnosed with whatever, I have to go to MD Anderson. And there are some amazing people in MD Anderson, but there's some not so amazing. So it's not the building. Make sure you're with the right person
Truth.
Every institution has good physicians, and it's your job to find the right ones. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Ready? We're all
Ready.
staring.
Okay, new people.
I'm Kurt. I'm going to start. This is my wife, Susan. On May 2nd, she went to the doctor having trouble breathing, and she's an athlete, and so this was kind of unexpected. Had been about 3 weeks, and within went to basically a lung doctor after the initial suggestion of her internist, and then in 2 days, if I remember correctly, went to an oncologist, and so it's lung biopsy. Yeah. So you're gonna join in here. So we've been involved in this for 6 weeks, and so being here with all of your comments are really helpful, because the first meeting with oncologists was not very positive. It really wasn't, and after that we spent some the second meeting with the oncologist. She became extremely positive in terms of support, and Susan's cousin Vicky told us about Bonnie, and about 2 weeks into our journey here, Bonnie called us on Saturday morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were driving up to work. We work on a farm. She works on a farm 6 days a week, and so we got a lot of hope from Bonnie, and then have since talked with Danielle and Michelle and everybody, and Susan has not quite a week ago, she had her second chemo session. She's had a biopsy, a lung biopsy. Basically, her cancer was discovered in the lungs, and there's still no origin after a whole series of tests. And so it's the chemotherapy is to take care of the lung cancer and where it has spread. And she has also, there were a couple little things in her brain, and she's had CyberKnife with Dr. Wara with Kaiser at the Kaiser Center in San Bruno, South San Francisco. You're going to correct me on all of this. and so she's had, 3 CT scans, if I remember correctly?
2 MRIs and a PET scan.
Yeah. Do you want to?
3 CTs, 1 PET, and 2 MRIs. They needed that for the CyberKnife. So because it's unknown origin, and it's the KRAS mutation, there isn't any, there aren't any. We've done lots of molecular testing on the biopsy, and everything comes up negative to all the things, the immunotherapy, the markers. None of that's going to work at this point. So I just have to stay alive long enough till they find it, or we have more molecular testing that's more definitive.
I have a question on the molecular test. Maybe Michelle or Danielle can help. What did they look for? Did they just do a small little test, or did they do a comprehensive
Susan,
test?
when we talked last week, I was in Albuquerque at a meeting that was
right,
and it was wonderful to be able to step outside and talk to you for an hour. One of the challenges is that there are bilateral lesions that are this big. So getting good quality tissue is a problem, which is why
blood.
Well, so this is why we're seeing Gandera next week. Which is why the diagnosis is really a malignancy of unknown origin, because they can't definitively say it's stemming from the lungs, right? It's acting like it.
Looks like it.
It looks like it.
It acts like a duck, it quacks like a duck,
Yeah.
but we don't know if it's a duck.
Correct. And so when I had reached out to Dr. Gandera last week, and there was some concern because of the unknown origin about whether or not he could get in, and I was like, he's getting in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it's happening next week, which is the best news possible. And I know we talked about your doc at Kaiser and his or her willingness. I can't remember the name.
Your head is being good.
Yeah.
She
to
really
work with
looked
Dr.
me,
Gandera.
and I said, I want everything.
Yeah.
And so the carboplatin and Taxol, she threw the big stuff at me. And
that was her regimen.
Yeah.
And I just said, I don't care, because one of them I could have, and I wouldn't lose my hair. I'm like, I don't care about my hair.
We had a head shaving party up in Tahoe. Yeah.
I sort of like having just a little bit that everyone thinks, maybe she really does have hair.
Right.
No, but this is going to be gone in a week, so it's gone.
Yeah.
But
Isn't it amazing how little we think about the things that, when we're well, we spend so much time on? And it's like, who cares? Shave it off.
No, I don't care.
But,
Yeah, it was hard when it was all falling out.
Yeah.
It is hard. And hearing that every single test was negative, that there was nothing besides chemotherapy, and I'm like, okay, be positive, Susan. Let's see here. And I lost it.
But I think one of the things, and I think we talked about this, and Mom, you can talk about this too, because she was diagnosed in 2003, she had surgery in 2004, but at that time, nobody was doing genetic testing on anything.
Right.
We had no idea what she had or didn't have or what it meant, there was nothing. It was, you will have chemotherapy and radiation. In the first place was, maybe we'll get you 6 months, right? That's what we heard. So you have to sort of, not that you don't want to listen to your doctor, but it's why I told you it's so important that you're with a specialist, somebody who this is all that they do. They can really take a deep dive look. We talked about the comprehensive genomic profiling and the liquid biopsies if they can't get good quality tissue, all of that kind of stuff. And David Gandera will do all of it.
And especially when they don't know what the primary is. Because if it turns out that the primary isn't lung, he will get you to the right people. So.
But you feel better.
Yeah.
So you're responding to the chemotherapy.
Yeah, my only symptom was shortness of breath.
Yeah.
Last November, we hiked Patagonia, and we did 18 miles a day. And this is like crazy. It just, comes out of the blue that you have stage 4 lung cancer, and it's metastasized in your thoracic, and you're like, what the hell?
I'm doing all this stuff. How is
And I've lost, that's the problem. I do need to talk to my doctor, because all of the anti-nausea drugs don't work. So I have to deal with figuring that out.
So they probably gave you Zofran. So a company called Tesaro just got approval for a new anti-nausea drug, and I will grab it and give it to you afterwards to talk to your doctor.
Okay, because I'm on another one too that can cause psychotic episodes that I'm also on during that time.
Okay.
But that didn't work either. So nothing worked. Neither did cannabis. So nothing.
Okay.
So is it? How soon does it hit after chemo, and how long does it last?
I feel like $1 million because I'm on Dex, because I'm on a steroid.
Yeah.
So the next day I feel great, and my breathing really is improved.
Okay.
And then the next day, I can't move.
So part of the problem, too, with the breathing could potentially be the anxiety, the not feeling well, increases your heart rate, makes your breathing and your blood pressure and all of that stuff accelerate. So I would definitely talk to...
I'm so nauseous I can't eat. So I've lost 7 pounds in this process, and I don't want to lose any weight.
Yeah.
So, I'm hungry. I ate tonight.
Good.
Okay. Well, there you go. And you are on steroids? Yes.
No, I'm not. That's one of the things I'm going to talk to my doctor about.
Because I went on steroids. I wanted to eat the living room. I'm not kidding.
She did.
It was ridiculous. I went from one extreme to completely the other.
But it matters.
My head
it's an
got
important
twice the
time.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So steroids will
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to talk to her about, because I feel like Superwoman on those things.
Yeah.
And prior to the steroids, when they finally put her on it, my sister and my brother and my stepdad and I were literally trying to force feed her.
Yeah.
Like, what else? We're making 12 different meals, like, at one thing, trying to, like, maybe this will work. Come on, Mom, try this.
Yeah.
She would be like, get out of my
They're
face.
doing-
with
they're doing the same thing.
I said to my family, I said, I think I actually look better now than I did when I had cancer. And it was because my face was the size of a bowling ball, and I didn't have one wrinkle.
On the
I was-
steroids.
Yeah, my face was just like so fat. There were no wrinkles. And they were going, yeah, Mom, you look great. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So, let's see what happens with those.
And one comment I think Ron said, and a couple of others, that when this first happened, you go online because this is all available to us, and the amount of information that is conflicting, and it's so hard to find your way through it, and that's the reason this organization is just
Stay off the internet. Call us.
Yeah,
We'll
I told Susan, she's got our contact information. I'll open it to all of you guys. If you ever have questions, just reach out. If we don't get back to you, like, within 30 seconds, we will as soon as we can. But absolutely, reach out to all of us. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk?
Nope. You don't have to.
These are two boys, Preston and Forrest.
Yeah.
Preston's in from the East Coast to see Mom. So.
Nice.
Bonnie,
They're wonderful.
If I can just add on your sons here, this is wonderful to see you guys.
Yeah.
You remind me of my two sons. We're about the same age, and my sons are about the same age, and one is out of town, one lives locally in the Bay Area. You guys are huge as far as this goes. So what you do, what you support, what everything you're doing is hugely important. Your constant communication with your folks, I can't stress it enough. Like you, mine was in March of this year, so I'm, the bowling ball is still somewhere on my head, bouncing off of there. So it's happening to all of you as it was and is for my my wife and two sons.
Yeah.
So it does get a little easier, even though we don't know where it's all going. But at the same time, the four of you, and if you have partners, girlfriends, whatever, wives, if they get involved as well, all of that love, you can never be surrounded by too much love. So.
Right.
Thank you so much for saying that. And obviously it's not mandatory, but anybody who would like to connect outside of the, monthly living room, please feel free to talk to one another after the meeting and do that. Because I think that's very sage, sound advice, especially coming from a patient, right? Who like you said, you're still new to this game and being able to send that across. And it is important that the whole family's involved.
And, we've often talked about having a living room just for the family members.
Yeah.
Because when someone in the family has cancer, everybody has cancer. It just is that way. And a place for your children and your relatives and your wives and husbands to just come and talk about, what's happening. And we really encourage honesty across the spheres in families, because you're all worried about the same things, but you're not talking about it. But you're all thinking exactly the same thing. And it's important to talk about it. It really is, because once you do, you're like, okay, we got that out of the way. Now let's go fight. Does that make sense? It's huge. There are no secrets. Everybody's keeping secrets, but there aren't any. You're all thinking the same things.
Very true.
Yeah, it's so true, Bonnie. My most difficult conversations are with my father and my sons.
Yeah.
And you look those people in the eye and you talk about this, and it's just so heavy.
Yes.
So you've got to get past that. You've got to get over that. You've got to continue talking and get comfortable with your new reality as much as you possibly can.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is freeing. But you got to get over the hump.
Yeah.
It's
because
just so hard.
your kids are worried they're going to remind you that there's something that you haven't thought about. But they have thought about it. And the same thing with you and your children. They're thinking about it. So you need to put it out on the table. And once you put it out on the table, it's easy to be a family again and actually laugh a little bit. share a meal, have a beer, watch a Warriors game, whatever that is. Get it out and get back to the family mode you were in before cancer and go from there.
Audrey, I just want to see if anybody online has anything they want to share from Andrea or Michelle. Okay. And for those of you who haven't met Michelle, I think most of you know Michelle. Just say who you are before you talk online.
So I'm Michelle, Patient Services. I think I know almost everybody.
Yeah.
And you all know that I also came to the foundation when my mom had lung cancer and my mother-in-law got diagnosed shortly after my mom. And so being a caregiver, being in the system and not getting any support, when I found out this was here, I came to volunteer. And I'm still here.
Yeah, it's almost 4 years ago.
I'm not leaving. So really quick, Karen Gorenberg in Florida is online, and she was diagnosed in 06 with stage 4, on Tarceva since 07. 10 years, she had her 6-month scans and everything's still stable. So, good news.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Karen was here last month or the month before. She was live and in person here in the living room. Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, and then we have someone new, Marianne in Arizona. She's stage 3 non-small cell, just had her first chemo and was happy to be here online.
Oh.
And then tons of people online.
Okay. Fantastic.
Hi.
So anybody who's online who hasn't already connected with Michelle or Bonnie or I, please, outside of the living room, please do. We'd love to hear your stories and help to navigate you through the process. Is that it?
I just had one comment.
Danny's back.
I know.
We're so excited.
I met Hurricane Bonnie 13 years ago. I was working for Sequoia Hospital where she received her care and her diagnosis. And she's literally telling the truth when she's saying that she took the bull by the horn, because my job was to go mop up after her and go pet the doctors and their egos, because she decided what was going to happen and they were all going to fall in line. I'd say, I know she's just a forceful lady. I would come in behind and just go, it's okay. She knows what she's talking about. It's her. And now it's such a different paradigm, which is so great, because physicians today are so much more open about patients getting involved in their care and their journey and their destiny, that it's much more of a normal conversation. Whereas before, we had to go behind and mop up her mess and killing their egos. But I will say what I learned in being part of the care team with Bonnie is it's okay to have cancer-free days. And the girls used to call me and say, Danny, get mom out of the office, get mom out of the house. She's got to go shopping. She's got to do something. So I'd get on that phone, pick her up, and we'd go drinking, shopping, doing anything we can. We'd wake up at a hotel room, literally not realizing where we are. And I was the one that, there was nothing left on the table that we couldn't talk about. We talked about maxing out our credit cards. And I said, what do you care? You're not supposed to be alive next year. You're not going to,
that's okay.
Let's put everything on your card.
That's okay to say things like that. That's okay. If we can't drive any point home, there has to be humor. I remember one night, we were having a Sunday dinner and all the kids were there and the grandkids and whatever, and I'm cooking. And then I'm doing the dishes and I'm looking at all of my people, laying and relaxing, and so I turned the light switch on and off, on and off, on and off, and they go, what's that? I said, excuse me, I have cancer. Should I be doing the dishes? And they all went, oh, maybe probably not. So they all scurried up and did the dishes, and I let them.
And then we very quickly got over you trying to pull the cancer card all the time.
Well, my favorite is we tried to get into this restaurant in San Francisco, and we couldn't get in. And I go, well, don't you have to go to the bathroom? And so she goes to the bathroom, and I said to the guy, she's got lung cancer. And I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to eat here again. And the problem was she looked so good. So it's kind of like, it's just, it's a real, we might not be back. Well, anyway, we ended up going back to this restaurant like 6 times. And so we kept not believing us
They
again.
stopped serving.
Like, she's supposed to be dying.
You're dying. Yeah, you're
and I said, well, it's a good thing. Your food is a miracle.
Yeah,
So, that was our thing.
Laughter
right?
is you have to find those moments.
Yeah.
You You
find
absolutely
those
have to find the moments. We
Yeah.
used to call
Getting
the
pulled
journal
over
that
by
we
the
would
police
read.
and
Yeah.
all, you know.
Yeah. You have
Thanks,
to.
One of your doctors sticking his head out the the
sunroof on the wine tour.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's important that what Danny just said, because we say this all the time, although I don't think we've said it recently, and so I appreciate you bringing it up, Danny, that you're going to have bad days, right? And I don't say this from the perspective of a patient, but I do a caregiver and what I witnessed. And everybody's allowed to have those bad days. Just don't live in them, because keeping your head in the game is half the battle in this space. I mean, it really, really, really is.
Yeah.
And Susan, you and I talked about this, about patients that I've worked with that got diagnosis and they just decided they were getting in bed and that was it. They weren't getting back out again.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and that does not bode
Not an
well for
option.
anybody. Yeah.
Not an option.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that back up. We are out of time, so I want to go ahead and do my thank yous. Of course, everybody's welcome to stay and grab some food and some dessert that the lovely Sally
Or take-home food.
is so
We have
kind
take-home boxes.
to bring to us. But as we talked about, our next living room is Dr. Reese, Jonathan Reese from UC Davis, Best of ASCO, and that's on July 18th. I want to, Katie, is there something you want to say real quick about events? Next up, San Francisco 5K, anything? No.
Just if anybody's interested in events, come talk to me afterwards, and I'll give you a calendar of the upcoming ones.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Katie. A huge thank you to to our partners and support group who, without their gracious support, we wouldn't be allowed or able to bring this to you. Astellas, Bristol Myers Squibb, Celgene, Genentech, Lilly, Merck, Novartis, and the Yahoo Employee Foundation all help to support this program so that we can post it live here in the room, and not only do that, but be able to live stream it out around the world, and then provide, I almost called it a leftover because you said it. The edited versions in our living room. It's so important, and I think you touched on it earlier. We've had just under 1 million impressions in 143 different countries when it comes to this meeting. So there's a huge need out there for this type of information, education, and support in the lung cancer community. It's available online for those of you who don't know. Subtitled in Spanish and Chinese as well. So we're hitting, a fairly large population and really helping to make that mark. I don't know what you're saying, Sam. I want to thank the Office Bar and Grill, but grab a mic. The Office Bar and Grill for providing the food. Peninsula Television, of course, for coming in here and tirelessly lugging in all of this equipment and then tearing it all down afterwards. Thank you so much for all you do and for airing it.
Take a pic in that room before you go and see what they bring in here once a month. I mean, they bring in the entire studio to make this happen.
Yeah.
And all we give them is mac and cheese.
It's not all we give them. They
eat
got
it all, though.
sliders.
They eat it all in sliders.
They got sliders. And then they air it on the local cable channel all month long. So we've been out to dinner before, this one and I, or maybe sitting at a bar in Half Moon Bay, and some lady comes up in our shoulder. She's like, "Oh my God, you guys are the cancer ladies. I watch you on
Cancer
TV all the
ladies
time."
on Channel 26.
Like, oh yeah, that's us.
That's us.
Staff, everybody in the room, and everybody who was not able to be here tonight. We have, as Katie kind of pointed out, a small but mighty team of individuals who are, pardon the French, but kicking ass and taking names. We're really out there working hard 24/7 for you guys, and all of those diagnosed before you and those that will be diagnosed after you, to really try to change what this disease looks like. So I can't thank our ALCF and Alchemy staff enough.
Yeah.
And the most important thank you obviously goes out to the patients and your support teams and your caregivers, and everything that you do to help support this foundation, up to and including sharing this night with the cameras and everybody who might be chiming in or tuning in. I can't thank you enough. Just the input you provide is so incredibly valuable and important in ensuring that we move this needle forward. So big round of applause. Oh, do you want to say one more thing?
Before we do the applause, one thing, especially for all the new people that don't know, we're more than this. We're much more than this. This is our favorite thing to do, and patients are always first. But our second foundation is all about research. We're doing our own research. We're doing our own blood-based biopsy trial. We're doing, hopefully, a phase 3 trial for small cell lung cancer with combination immunotherapy. We're doing so many things that we're so very proud of that have never been done before. You come in here and it looks like this great comfortable living room, which it is, yes, but we are doing some things that no one else is doing, and so proud.
Yep. We're happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
Did you need something to happen? I don't know what's happening. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good night, online, in the room. Thank you.